Howdy YouTubers, this is the Roaming Prepper. Thanks for checking out the channel and thanks for checking out the video. Today we will be discussing another step in the applying business to preparedness. We're continuing to discuss Porter's 5 forces for business as applied to preparedness. Today we're going to discuss a lack of substitutes. What's the effect of a lack of substitutes? As you recall from the first video, this will be the third of the series. There are 5 forces that affect any business, and one of the ways you measure those forces is using Michael Porter's 5 forces for business. Dr. Porter is a professor of business, and I believe he wrote this back in the 80s. This has been a standard of discussion for business and MBA majors who want to understand how businesses are affected by the forces around them. People are much the same way. But instead of using the 5 forces you see in front of you, rivalry among competitors, bargaining power, threat of new entrants, we've changed the 5 forces to reflect some realities that preppers will deal with and folks just dealing with day-to-day life. This allows you to quantify what's going on around you and possibly help you make plans to deal with these forces better. So today we're going to discuss a lack of substitutes. Now that takes the place of threat of substitute products or services in the original business format, a lack of substitutes. That's going to be today's topic. What exactly does that mean? Essentially, there are certain things that you will need to be prepared or for your family on a day-to-day basis. When one of those items is unavailable, how do you deal with that? How do you try to figure that out? Well, let's discuss that. So what causes lack of substitutes? It could be a monopoly, only one company offering it, but it has insufficient stock or it's priced all of a sudden so you cannot obtain it anymore, at least not reasonably. Another issue is logistics. For some reason, it's become hard for it to arrive at your location. That could be because of laws in your state. That could be because of a road being washed out. Product cannot arrive. Another one is regulation. The government may ban or limit possession. Bump stocks are one example, but it could also be taxes on certain products. Take your pick of a variety of things that could be limited by government, either locally or at the federal level, that will affect you. Of course, there's the old supply-demand imbalance, usually caused by panic or unexpected surge buying. Good example, coronavirus toilet paper. Also during hurricanes, bottled water disappears. Regardless of how many companies offer it, so many people need it that you cannot find it anymore, or the price has become unobtainable for you. And lastly, geopolitics. The cost of a needed component to make this item or this product, whatever it may be, has gotten to where you can no longer get it because the item is tariffed or the other country has embargoed your country, or your country has embargoed the country that is the source. So how do you address a lack of substitutes if you need an item? What businesses do, and there's a lot of things they do, I'm just summarizing some here. One, find an alternative. Find something else that will get the job done. If you can't find scissors, but you can find a razor blade, that's an alternative item. You can find another source. Companies will try to find another way to get the product. If they need aluminum, or if they need steel, or if they need wood, they can go to another place to try and find it. Self-fabricating. Some companies will try to make the product themselves. Vertical integration. Companies will buy their supplier out. in which case now they have a monopoly on the product, and it's good for them. Not necessarily good for you, but that's how a company would do it. R&D to discover a better product. If it's an absolutely needed product, but they can't get the needed components, a company may come up with a better way to do it to where they have made the guys on the market irrelevant. And lastly, phase the item out of production. They may decide that they just don't need to make it or buy it anymore, and they just remove it. For instance, if you own a private store or boutique and your costs for getting certain types of t-shirts has gotten too high, you may decide you don't want to be in the t-shirt market. You may say sell baseball caps instead. These are very simplistic comparisons, but it gives you the idea. But what can you do personally for this? Well, one, find another item to help produce the same result. A good example, use an arrow instead of a bullet. That's kind of a tongue-in-cheek example, but you get the picture. Find another resource to create the product. You can't find a certain type of gate, you can't find a certain created product, or you can't get a certain crop or food. Find an artisan, a farmer, a welder, a carpenter, someone who can possibly make the desired item for you, and you've just solved your problem. You can learn how to make it from scratch. This would be self-fabricating at a personal level. Learn how to make bread, learn how to create a crop of your own. Even if it's just a small substitute, it will take the place of that which you were trying to obtain externally. Another example, making clothes. Following the R&D suggestion from businesses, research another way to get this item accomplished. Ultimately, you're buying something for some end purpose. Find another way to obtain that end purpose, or find a way to not need that situation at all. For example, you can't find fishing line for a fishing pole. Can you create a net? Can you create a trap using a bucket to trap the fish you need so you can get food? Again, a simple example. As a company would phase out an item, you need to find a way to do without it. If none of the other options work, find a way around the need in the first place. A good suggestion, quit smoking now. I know it's hard to break, but it costs money and it's typically not good for you. Quit smoking now, and then it's a non-issue when you need it or when it's not available. If you have a bike around every now and then. You could use the bike instead of a car. Now keep in mind, certain medical issues you're going to have a challenge with. Now you can do a lifestyle change, eat more oatmeal, exercise, etc., lower your cholesterol and blood pressure to where you don't need blood pressure meds. But if you're diabetic or you have another condition, you may absolutely need to have certain medicines. That might be a challenge. So that's something you might have to do the research on, the R&D, to find out what your options are. Here's some things you can do today. Write down some hard-to-find items that you've realized are not in your preparedness package. Look back at other incidents, the hurricanes, CV-19, to see what disappeared then and make sure you have adequate supplies of that kind of item. Again, nobody thought toilet paper was going to disappear like that. Lo and behold, it did. Pay attention to news and record anything you think may be affected in your preps. Right now there's a microchip shortage. We're having arguments with Russia, which is a major titanium exporter. These kind of things, if your titanium goes into something you need, if the microchip serves a purpose, if there's certain medicines that come from a certain country, this can all affect you. Also, keep a good inventory. If you lose track of what you have, you may not realize you have what you need to deal with the situation. You may not need the product you can no longer get. You might have something else. You won't be able to tell yourself that if you have no clue what you've stashed. There's a fine line between stocking your pantry and hoarding in the pantry. Make sure you're organized and you know roughly what you have. Doesn't have to be perfect, but at least have a handle on it. And lastly, collaborate. You can collaborate on YouTube. You can collaborate on Instagram. You can talk to other people on Facebook. You can talk to your personal friends and family. Lots of ways you can do this. Folks, I hope this was useful today. That concludes our lesson for business applied to preparedness. This is the Roaming Prepper. Thank you for checking it out. If you are traveling, Godspeed. And for everyone else, be safe, be ready, do your homework, and if you can, help someone out. Until next time, thanks for coming by, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care, everyone.